So you've worked with people across the abandonment spectrum. What kind of issues do you see?
People reach out to me from situations like going through a breakup, being rejected by someone they love. That becomes a very extreme abandonment crisis. People on that far end of the spectrum where they're going through a very acute crisis are also people who have a lot of abandonment trauma from childhood, and it plays havoc in their lives. They're in and out of relationships. They have addiction problems, maybe, or instability problems. They just have multiple ways that abandonment is impacting them. That's sort of at the far end of the spectrum. And then at the milder end of the spectrum, people are aware of the fact that abandonment, unresolved abandonment from the past, is interfering in their lives. People come to me throughout the abandonment spectrum. Some people have more chronic abandonment issues where they realize that unresolved abandonment from their childhood wounds or from previous heartbreaks are still having an impact on their lives in many ways. Maybe they have low self-esteem issues, or they tend to be very codependent, and they're aware of the fact that it's their abandonment fear that's causing that, or they can't trust anyone in a relationship and it makes them sabotage every attempt they have. They're too insecure to be in a relationship. People come to me with because they're overeating, or they're having addiction issues, because they know that they're emotionally medicating discomfort, because they're too alone, they're too isolated, they feel somehow broken. Um, at There are people at the far end of the spectrum who are going through real acute abandonment crisis, or people going through a breakup, or they've been fired from a job, they've been rejected, they've loved someone or something, and that person has rejected them. Some people have one of their children has decided never to speak to them again and has cut them off. This is relatively common these days, and it triggers or can trigger a huge abandonment crisis where someone you love doesn't love you back and doesn't want your love and finds you disposable and wants to put you out at the curb like yesterday's trash to be collected by some garbage truck as if you have no worth. And those kind of extreme abandonment, rejection, breakup situations create such emotional turmoil. The strongest people, the most independent people, can feel like they've been hit by a truck. It can really knock you out, and the turmoil and the crisis, the emotional crisis, can last a very long time. But people range along the spectrum at different times. So the people who reach out are those who are having more of the chronic issues where they just feel that it's time for them to get into recovery, to learn the tools, and to start really coming out of it and developing a sense of self, developing a new relationship with themselves, and healing that primal abandonment wound. And they can be going through a chronic abandonment of insecurity and self-sabotage and that kind of more chronic level, or they can be in the throes of something really intense and difficult. So the abandonment spectrum includes everyone, every human being on the planet, because we all have vulnerability to abandonment fear. We all have shame. It's universal. And it can be easily triggered by little and large experiences. So it runs the gamut.